Ignite your curiosity with Austin Next. We're watching Austin transform from a thriving ecosystem into a global superstar. With our host, Jason Scharf, we aspire to better comprehend the true nature of innovation. Together, we will uncover what makes a successful ecosystem and navigate the technologies shaping our future. Now let's dive into what's next.
Every time my Ring doorbell camera goes off, it most likely means there are more packages at my front door. There definitely was a spike in e-commerce during the pandemic, but what about now? Have we swung back to trend? Are we at a new normal? What about the Chinese competitors? And of course, how does AI fit into all this? To help me answer all these questions and more, my guest today is Roei Yellin, co-founder and chief revenue officer of 8Fig, a technology-based AI CFO and funding platform for e-commerce sellers. Following his start as a two-time Olympic athlete, Roei became active in the startup world. He has since accumulated over a decade of experience building fintech products with a focus on payment systems and supply chain analytics. After serving as COO at Prytech and participating in over 30 fintech investments, he noticed a need for better financial management and funding services for small e-commerce enterprises. This led him to co-found 8Fig in 2020 with the goal of providing e-commerce entrepreneurs with the resources and capital they need to succeed. Enjoy this behind the scenes dive on the sector with Roei. Roei, welcome to the Austin Next podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm excited to do this episode, not just as we kind of dig into the world of e-commerce, but also as a consumer, stuff just shows up at my front door in boxes. And I assume there's some sort of magic behind it, right? You know, it's not just my wife continues to buy things. But before we kind of get into the state of e-commerce and what's going on and what happened kind of during COVID and now after, can you talk to me a little bit about 8Fig and how your company fits into the whole stack?
Yeah, for sure. So 8Fig is a growth platform for e-commerce sellers, mainly the early product market fit for e-commerce. So online sellers, Amazon sellers, Shopify sellers who start earning six figures in revenues, 100K a year and more, and they need to scale. For them to scale, the most important thing for them is to have working capital for their inventory, for their shipping, for their marketing, for their logistics, and so on. 8Fig help those sellers by first of all, we have a product called AI CFO. So we help them map out how much money they need in order to accomplish their business goals. And then also on top of the AI CFO, we are also offering the financing to execute on the plan. So it's not only telling you what you need to do, but also helping you with actual financing. So that's 8Fig. We started 4 years ago. We are now catering to thousands and thousands of sellers, mostly on Shopify and Amazon. Yeah.
So this is probably going to be a dumb question, but are banks not lending to these types of sellers?
Yeah. So first of all, we are a technology company plus the financing. And for your question, no, they are not. E-commerce is a new business. It's a new industry. We are using data sources that come from multiple platforms. Okay, the data from Shopify, the data from Amazon, the data from the banks. Banks don't know what, as you mentioned, for them it's a magic, right? For the box to appear in your doorstep. So and also those companies are small, medium businesses that are very young, 2, 3, 4 years in business. So also, in general, banks are not keen to work with small, medium businesses. They like to take the more upper echelon of businesses with more audited reports, with more conventional underwriting methods. And they are not leveraging technology. They are leveraging people. We are trying to leverage technology in order to provide a better service and a very, very focused product. We are working only with online sellers with white label products, right, or private label products. We are not working with other small medium businesses. We are not actually working with all the e-commerce sellers. We are not working with
Mm.
dropshippers, for instance. Okay, we have a very focused product, and we are trying to build the best product for e-commerce, not for the other parts of the economy. And this gives us a lot of
Got,
advantages and specification in what we do.
got it. All right. So now I want to step back to understand kind of where your vantage point is sitting from and how you see how the world is working. So COVID hit. We'd obviously all used to using Amazon, Shopify, whatever. We had the shutdowns, e-commerce spiked. Everyone said, "Oh my God, we're gonna like remote work. The world has changed. We're doing all these things. We're gonna be ordering from home forever." We saw different kinds of companies pop up and different ways of ordering.
Moving to Austin.
People moved to Austin. I think both of us did. I think that during that period, we saw then, you know, some pullback, right? Then, of course, the
Mhm.
headlines similarly, I think, to remote work is okay. It's all going back to normal. Everything was the way it was before. I'm guessing the truth is probably somewhere in between there. So, are we back on trend? Are we at some sort of new normal? What would you say is the overall state of e-commerce? What is going on?
So e-commerce was growing for the last 20 years in a consistent rate. Okay. COVID hit and spiked it up, and then it came back, but to the expected trend. So e-commerce is still growing. We are buying more and more online. Try to think of your holidays, gifts. I guess most of it was done online, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and people are buying more and more from mobile, more from different platforms, not only Amazon. There are multiple players now today, and it's continued to grow. Again, COVID to the e-commerce industry was like it was from many industries. It was a very good tailwind, and now it back to normal.
So from that perspective, though, are we back to the trend? Just if we had taken the spike away, where we
Yeah,
would have been sitting in 2024, or is it
yeah.
when I kind of do that comparison to remote work, where we were at, give you some room on the numbers. We were at like 5% remote work. We spiked up to 80, but now we're setting on like a norm of like 25%. So where does that analogy work in e-commerce? Are we at the same point we would have been anyways, or are we at a higher point?
I think in the same point we would have been anyway. So, taking into consideration, if I'm not mistaken, e-commerce was growing 20-25% year over year for the last 20 years. And it's still growing 20-25% year over year after COVID. So we are in a good place. A lot of the noise that came into the market during COVID is now exiting, and things are growing and looking good. We are very happy with how the market looks like today.
So it's been growing for 20 to 25%. Is it at a point, as you'd said, like you're very focused on eight big, kind of that the white label, not you specifically mentioned the drop shippers. Do you see the market maturing? Do you see getting it more, getting more sophisticated? Is that why something like 8 Fig exists? Or is it still the Wild West, or is it something in between? How are we thinking about the state of like from the seller perspective?
Yeah, so definitely. It's getting more and more sophisticated, stronger, smarter player are the one that makes it. Not every guy with a product and a storefront is making it. So basically, what happened with the introduction of like cheap cheap capital into the market and people having more money, um, a lot of sellers was back in the day were not very reasonable and not very effective with their unit economics. Okay, those sellers exited the market today because there is no way to maintain this kind of negative unit economic in today's market, right? So now most of the people that survived the return to normalcy are the ones that are responsible. They know how to work and grow a business in a reasonable way, and that's where we are today. So it's all in all, it's much better.
Is e-commerce still a point at which someone can do the side hustle, or has it gotten so sophisticated and more competitive that that's not even an option anymore? Or does
No,
it depend on the product and the niche? I mean, obviously the answer is always it depends, but
no, I definitely think this is the case. You just have to have more patience, more grit, and more preparation work. E-commerce, unlike other businesses, small medium businesses, is a data play. You have to understand the data. Okay, you have to understand the demand in the market, and those are available to you. There are tools, there are platforms that help you identify what people want to buy and when they want to buy it. What are the price? What are the keywords? What are the recently we saw the rise of the Amazon ad network, right? It's becoming, I think, the third biggest ad network in the world today. Okay, this is a way for you to manipulate data and manipulate the situation in the market to your advantage and to build a business on top of it, right? Is it cheap? I guess it's not as cheap as it was 10 years ago. Is it possible? For sure. But you just have to do the hard work of validating time and time again that you are in the right place with the right product with the right economics.
well, with the churn that I think that we're seeing, because when I see all those, people that saying, "Oh, just do," getting back to the drop shipping hype, right? Which in many ways is, on one hand, it's okay. Drop shipping is a tool that can be powerful in the right hands of someone with the right data, the right product. But when someone, like you, I've seen those YouTube videos of like, I can make six figures a month in drop shipping. I'm like, do you have a commodity product, and how are we doing this, and are you likely selling a course on drop
Yeah.
shipping? Is that actually the product that you're selling? So
Yeah.
do you see the some of the costs and like the advertising costs themselves going down as some of the, I don't want to say unsophisticated is not even the right word here, but the people who kind of came in to make a quick buck thinking that, oh, this was the
Yeah.
way to go in, start churning back out of the market and bring back down the prices of some of the data acquisition and the advertising?
So the advertising. So you're talking about two different things, I believe.
Hmm.
It's like, on one hand, the quick buck players who exited the market, which everybody is happy about, um, they left. That's true. You see less advertisement about how to make a million on Amazon within 30 days on YouTube, um, much less than 2 years ago, right? On the other hand, the price of customer acquisition went up significantly with due to the due to the rise of interest rates in the US. Okay, Facebook and Google are not they they need to be profitable, right? So they are not keeping it easy. That's why also Amazon has now a success, because they are an alternative, right? Not a cheap alternative, but an alternative, right? But more focused,
Hmm.
maybe. So both things are happening in the same time. The long tail of sellers are not very busy. Let's call it this way in these times, and the customer acquisition cost is rising, okay, or at least it's not decreasing, which makes the actual sellers with the real talent and with the real product and the real demand being more proactive on their unit economics, on their margins, on making money, not selling for a loss, those kind of things. So that's how this affects the e-commerce space.
So one of the other trends that I saw, especially moving to Austin, because I think there were some of them that were here, were these e-commerce aggregators that I saw were raising big venture dollars. So
Yeah.
I have two questions. One is a very basic question, and then the second is more of a what does it mean? So the more basic question is, can you explain to me exactly how they work? So what is it that they were actually doing? And then the second question is, I feel like I've heard a lot less about them in the last 18 months or so. So is that trend kind of over? I've seen some of them got acquired. So talk to me about those aggregators.
So I'll try not to get myself in trouble and be PC about it. And the aggregator space was an attempt to build the new Procter and Gamble or the Unilever of the world.
Okay, got it.
Those were financial players coming to the market and saying, okay, if I'm going to aggregate a lot of storefronts, I'm going to create a lot of efficiencies and a roll up of some kind that will allow me to create efficiencies of scale. They raised a lot of money, most of it as debt, not as equity, and then they deployed it as a private equity play in the market.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest of them, or the most famous of them, and the ones in 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 the upper echelon of the aggregators are not doing so well. Actually, I think Tresio filed for bankruptcy after raising billions of dollars. Um, and I and now the space of acquiring Amazon storefront is still active, but not as active as it used to be before. So they came into the market, the multiples grew, they doubled actually within 2 years, and then everything crashed down with the rise of interest rates, right? Because the aggregators were borrowing money to do the acquisitions, and then the interest rate went up, and then they were in a jam. So that's where we are today with aggregators. So some of them are still doing good. The one that were smart, the one that were very specialized and very responsible on how they gonna grow. They were smart by not exiting the founder, but keeping the founders with them in the business. So a lot of the aggregators says, Mr. Entrepreneur, Mr. Seller, thank you very much. You grew this business amazingly, but we know better than you. So please take our money and go away. That tend not to succeed in business sometimes. You have to keep the entrepreneur. You have to keep the at least for a little bit of time. And when you looked at the headcount of, they would replace a business of 1 or 2 person operating with 7 to 10 or to 12 people operating the same business. So it didn't make sense so much.
It didn't necessarily scale the revenue in kind.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's interesting your analogy there was you said they were trying to create the the Procter and Gamble or the Unilever in e-commerce. Now we've seen some e-commerce like Warburg Parkley, Casper, Allbirds, move from e-commerce to physical.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just and we've seen you use that analogy. Have we seen any of the Procter and Gambles or the Unilevers go out and acquire any of these digital only brands?
Yeah,
Has
for
it gone
sure.
that direction?
Again, I think the most famous one is the Dollar Shave Club, right? That was
Oh
the
yeah, of
one that
course,
is
yeah,
very, very famous,
yeah,
by Gillette, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
yeah. I forgot about
those
that one.
those D2C brands were very, very smart about how to grow. They were not very, very smart on how to, again, and the market encouraged them to get 100 times multiples on their revenues and stuff like that. And I'm not sure that's the right place multiple wise for a physical product company. And we saw that the market, as it reacted fast in the rise, it reacted fast in the drop of the price per share of those Shopify brands, like the big one that went to the IPO, like Allbirds and Oatly and Casper
Yep.
and Peloton, and you know they are now significantly down, and they are still losing money. So again, I think the key insight is that unit economic. You know, you have to
During
make
during the ZERP, yeah, I was gonna
doing.
say during the ZERP era, it was all
I think
about the
it should be
growth.
across the timeline, right?
Yeah.
No matter what. Uh, and and you have to be conscious about how you're making business, right? Telling stories of growth and multiples is great. I totally believe in that, but you have to meet it with actual results. And those guys, when they had to face the actual circumstances, I don't think they proved it, and then the market reacted in the same manner, in the expected manner, actually.
So we talk about these companies that were kind of the darlings over the last couple of years, but
Hmm.
I'll say that the darlings in the press right now are all the open AIs, Anthropics, it's all the AI and
Yeah.
automation companies. Are you seeing those technologies starting to show up now in the e-commerce space already? And how are you seeing them show up?
So the most obvious usage of those technologies by our client is in the content, right? Creating more content around your product, the listings, the marketing materials, those kind of um, generated content, you know, like synthetic content. You know,
Yep.
take my product and put it on the Himalaya, right? Those kind of stuff are very helping in reducing some of the cost for the sellers, right? It's helping them to create better SEO, better content, better images, those kind of stuff. The more sophisticated implementations of AI are being developed now, right? How to create, how to take your data and generate insights from it, how to create efficiencies in your supply chains, how to create efficiencies in your manufacturing. Those kind of stuff are being developed now, especially by us with our AI CFO and the products that we are developing around that, helping you manage better your inventory better, your cash flow better, your supply chain better, those kind of stuff. But the first thing we saw immediately off the gate when they released ChatGPT was the marketing materials, which created a lot of impact. Right, for an Amazon seller, they live and die by their listings because all the indexing and all the funneling from Amazon to their product is through that.
One of the things we were just saying, like that, all the rise, like the make so much money from drop shipping, and how it should be a tool and not the only way that we do this. But I wonder, and I'm probably you've seen it as well. At the moment, I can tell if something's AI written, right? I've seen enough of it. I've used enough of it that you can tell if someone hasn't tweaked it at all and just said, "Okay, I'm going to put this in, and here's the base come out." So there's two ways you can take it. One is that we're going to see this kind of flattening, just deluge of everything looks the same. It's all kind of a mediocre level of content in the ads and in the displays, etc. Or I guess the other way you could take it is the people who start putting in the effort, putting in the sophistication, are very quickly going to rise to the top because if they know how to use the tool, then they really can take off.
Yeah, so I would say it's 10x everybody. So there are three kinds of let's say sellers out there, right? The one they did amazing job, and now they have AI, so they can do that amazing job 10 times more, right? You have the ones who did kind of a good job, and now the AI can take them to the great job, right? They had good listings, they had good marketing materials, but now they can make it great, right? Because they have something in it, right? They have their own voice, their own ideas, and the AI is just cleaning it up or making it a little bit better, right? And then the marketing materials are much better. It's amazing, right? And then they can do it 10 times. So they went to the upper level, and then they are scaling it. And the ones that had nothing and they did a very bad job. So, and then those guys can do from 0 to 80% like this, very, very fast, right? Mostly we will talk about non-US sellers. So there is a lot of conversation around the China-based sellers versus the US-based
Hmm.
sellers, all the friction there with the white hat, black hat tactics and stuff like that. So I would assume that for those kind of players, or those kind of sellers, AI is a God given gift, right?
Hmm. Well, and it's and this is one of the topics we wanted to discuss. Is it could get a moment to transition to it. So, I mean, we're not that far away from the Super Bowl, and I swear I saw that Timu ad like 50 times. I don't know how much money they spent on it.
Yeah.
So, how have Shein and Timu and might help to explain to me a little bit about what the differences between those are. Like again, I don't really use them all that much, but
Hmm.
how have the influx of the Chinese e-commerce players changed the market?
So I guess this is a reaction to the Amazon crackdown on the Asian Chinese brands, right? They if you would go to the online forums of sellers 2 years ago or 3 years ago, people were hurting. A lot of black hat sellers would copy your brand, copy your listing, copy your picture, would hijack your listings, all those kind of stuff. And Amazon, for good or bad, is like they don't have separation of like government, courts, and Congress, right? They are all Amazon is one entity, and they built this amazing kind of court way that where you can submit a claim that somebody is hijacking you and somebody is hurting your business, and they would ban them from Amazon. So I think the more Amazon crack down on those kind of black hat tactics, not that look, I don't want to say something that is wrong. If you are selling your own brand, you did the hard work and you are doing the right things. It doesn't matter where you are. You can succeed from wherever you are in the world. Okay, Amazon allows you to do that. Shopify allows you to do that, and 8 will support you. Okay, but some players are not most honest players, right? And they try to do some black hat stuff, and those will they still exist, but you don't hear about them so much as you used to. Okay, because of Amazon did that. So now, because of that action by Amazon, I guess those brands are looking for more another way to the market, right? And
Hmm.
by building their own platforms of of they are direct to the American consumers, like Temu and Shane. They have that connection, and there is demand for them for this in the market, and they are meeting that demand. That demand is always there, right? For the non-branded $1, $3, $10, it's the online $1 shop, right? Those
Right.
kind of most of the brands over there. So yeah.
What kind of penetration have they been able to get? I mean, is this is kind of like I'm not asking for like more not specific, but like is it like single digit? Is it like how big of a player are these companies?
So we are not active in that space. We are not. We are
Okay.
only working with the US based sellers, but they are growing year over year significantly. I think double digits easily year over year, uh, and they are also doing a much better job branding themselves as a platform, as a legitimate platform for US consumers. Like I would I would bet that US consumers feel more confident buying from Temu today than they would from Alibaba 15 years ago, right? When
Mm.
you're like a little bit anxious, should I give my credit card details? Should I not? Will the quality be good? Will the quality? But now you know you're gonna get very good stuff from those platforms very cheaply. Maybe it will take a little bit more time. Maybe the box will not be as fine. Maybe the carbon footprint will be as a little bit different. But yeah, but people are buying. Yeah, for sure. Why not? If you can buy the same thing for half the price, why not?
So I do want to pull together a couple of threads that you had mentioned. So you said like when the aggregators came and bought some of these companies, they would go from like the founder, like 1 or 2 people, to like 7. You talk about how 8fig offers not just obviously the capital, but some like data on like the finances, the supply chain side, and data understanding. I had brought on the chief product officer of Zen Business a while back, and we talked about again on the incorporation side and a lot of different tools that they had to kind of starting businesses. I know some of the stuff that like Sam Altman and OpenAI talked about, like kind of these, you know, single person $1 billion companies. So how are we seeing these kind of? I kind of want you like the Shopifyification of a lot of these platforms where people like Eat Fig and come in where we almost kind of create these one button companies that you can. I want to do this. I want to create an e-commerce. I can put in the work, and basically the entire stack is suddenly available to me, whether it be marketing, supply chain, inventory, and I just need the idea. I mean, how far away are we from that?
We are there for many years now. We are there, but what we are seeing, the human interaction in it is getting less and less. So if 10 years ago I wanted to build my own brand on Amazon or Shopify and be that solopreneur sitting on the beach in Thailand or Costa Rica and buying boxes from one side of the world, selling it to the other side of the world and making a great profit out of it. You could have done that. Along the way, you would use a lot of service companies. You would use a manufacturer in China or in Asia. You would use a drop shipper. You would use a logistics company, a warehouse, a marketing agency, and you would just orchestrate everything between all those people. Now, you still use those service companies, but those behind those service companies there are much less people, right? So your marketing agency is super lean. Your dropshipper is super lean. Your manufacturer and sourcing company are super lean. So this will allow you eventually to improve your margins, right? The only problem is that you have to be original. You have to have some kind of insight and heart into the product. Something that that's my belief, that you have to have heart in your product that you are selling. If it's something that you don't truly believe in or you truly love, and it can be the most mundane product, uh, kitchenware, you know, those kind of stuff that you don't have any emotional relationship, but you are proud of the quality, you are proud of the brand, and you want to fight for it, right? So then you can win. If it's just a faceless white label product that you put a sticker on, that might make a lot of money, but it won't be there for the long term.
But then everybody else can go into that space as well, and then size and scale matter, and they have the option. They have the same ability to and access to all of that AI, all that technology that you do.
Exactly, as Jeff Bezos says, your margin is my opportunity. So if the margin is not with the cost of the product, but the margin is the cost of the labor, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you can go and utilize that. and then
Are we seeing
there is
any?
opportunity for competition in the market.
Are we seeing anything? Any interesting trends in the product space themselves? I mean, what are you seeing in terms of new types of products that are coming out, given what's been available for the sellers?
So it's coming and going. Uh, and I mean, you mean what kind of products are now very very hype by the like people buy online more than they used to, right? So when we had COVID, a lot of products were around work from home, education from home, those kind of things. Standing desks were a
Right.
very big hype, right? What we are seeing now, I guess it's also a result of COVID, but for us, we see a lot of brands around pets, a lot of products for pets, for dogs, for cats, those kind of stuff are really taking off, and they are doing really really well, and we have lots of clients in that space. So it's really interesting. Fashion is always is very strong, but now something that is we are all the time talking about inside the company is wow, how well those pet brands are doing now.
It's interesting to read. At the same time, there's all the literature and all the stuff in the popular press about the loneliness epidemics and the decrease in hanging out, and so then that kind of aligns with you're saying the increase in people buying things for pets.
Yeah.
On one hand, you're like, I can see that almost as the coping mechanism is like, oh, people are buying more pets and they're trying to deal with that kind of that epidemic. On the other hand, you're like, or we could go talk to people and deal with it, and have more interactions that way. So it's
Yeah.
a double-edged sword there.
Yeah, and I come from Israel, and I immigrated from Israel 2.5 years ago, and definitely the American dog has a different life than they have in Europe or other parts of the world. They have daycare, they have other activities. They have a very strict grooming schedule, and you have how they call it, like hair salon for dogs. There's one in the domain, I know. So it's growing. It's a growing. I like dogs, so I'm happy about it.
Yes, I haven't had a dog since I was a kid, and my kids are always asking when we're getting a dog, which hopefully
Same
is
here,
soon.
same here,
But
same here. Yeah, we have a
yeah.
bunny.
Bunny and a dog it's close. It's not quite the same, but
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I think that's actually a kind of a great segue kind of into the kind of the always way I end the podcast. I mean, you and I moved to Austin around the same time. I was here a little over 3 years ago, and so kind of in that time, in your thought, what's next, Austin?
From the e-commerce perspective, I think Austin will only grow. So the reason we came and we built the office in Austin was because it's a very strong hub for e-commerce sellers. So there are lots of sellers around town, lots of companies, lots of events. I guess starting in South by Southwest 20 years ago, and just growing from there. I think that and the fact that Austin is becoming also a hub for the creative space, so online creators, podcasters, YouTube creators, Instagram influencers are all coming to Austin together. I think there will be a very interesting mix between the two. Maybe we will see much more influencer based brands, e-commerce brands. So I think that's where I see Austin from the e-commerce side. It's just going to grow. People like it here. It's a good place to have a network of around the e-commerce space.
It's one of the things I love in these kind of conversations is always to get kind of new industries and new things that are changing in Austin. It's such a diverse set of sectors that are here.
Yeah, I really enjoy my time here.
Yeah. Roei, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
So what's next, Austin? We're glad you've joined us on this journey. Please subscribe at your favorite podcast catcher.
Leave us a review and let your colleagues know about us. This will help us grow the podcast and continue bringing you unique interviews and insights. Thanks again for listening, and see you soon.